And the meeting is now open for the sharing of testimonies of healing through Christian Science. Jim from Arizona, go ahead.
Good evening. A new copy of Love is a Liberator just arrived yesterday, late, so I got started on the reading of it today. I am most grateful for this edition, for it seems that every article so far has been written just for my reading. How wonderfully each article seemed to apply to me. I have already passed the staples, so I know that I'm halfway through the reading. I am most grateful.
Thank you. Michael from California, go ahead.
Good evening. Just thank you for the readings. Very helpful, very encouraging. A few months ago, I was getting together with some family that I hadn't seen in a long time, and I usually pray for myself. I find family gatherings to be sometimes difficult because everybody there knows you very well, and so people can tend to say things that are possibly offensive, or things can get out of hand. So I just do that work myself. I learned from listening to these Wednesday services. Somebody had mentioned doing mini watches, which is essentially taking 5 minutes maybe and doing a short watch for themselves throughout the day. And I like the idea so much that I've been doing that even at work, where I'll actually step aside and maybe even go to the bathroom and just try to take a few minutes to do that throughout my day. And it has been very helpful. On this day that I was with my family, I was actually about to leave the bathroom, and I had this very strong inclination to do a watch there. And it was something that I had not planned to do, but it was just a very strong sense that I needed to, and so I started right then and there to do a few minutes of praying with one of the readings that I've been using from the church, from Plainfield. And when I walked out, some of my family members were saying, everything's going to be okay, and I had no idea what they were talking about, but I acted as if I did. And eventually what I came to find out was that one of my cousin's 4-year-old daughter had disappeared in this large park that we were in, and she had panicked because she couldn't find her, and they were screaming her name out, and everybody was running around all over the place. And by the time I walked out, they had said, "Oh, we found her, everything's okay, and everything's fine," and everybody had calmed down. But this had happened right when I got that very strong intuition to start praying. And I am certain that sort of spiritual awareness came from these watches and from doing all the work that I've learned, everything I've learned from Plainfield. And I just wanted to express my gratitude for that, because I know that it's just progress, and it just shows how these things will bless you in ways that you cannot even foresee. And so I just wanted to say thank you to this church and everybody and everything that's a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nancy.
Nancy from New Jersey, go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you for the very beautiful readings tonight. I wish to express my gratitude for the Bible studies and the roundtables that are provided by this church. I always feel that I am able to take away a fresh and inspired way to think about how to apply the pure Christian Science that is taught here. I'm especially grateful for this past weekend's Bible study on demons. This was a very powerful Bible study to me. It was mentioned during the discussion that it might not be thought to be politically correct, or that to some it might be an uncomfortable topic to discuss. But I am so grateful that through the divine wisdom that is forever operating in this church and in these classes, that this topic was presented to us at what I felt was a time when this discussion was most needed. A time when there would seem to be much unrest in the world and in our government, and when our communities and our schools and our children would appear to be under attack. that we need to be aware of these demons and of the many disguises and of the many names that they wear. During this discussion, it was also said that God gave man dominion over everything, and that we need not fear these things, but that armed with the knowledge and the valuable instructions that we receive in all of our Bible studies and roundtables, that we can stand firm in the truth, and we can absolutely claim our God-given dominion when praying to destroy these claims. I am deeply grateful to our practitioners for their tireless work, their dedication, and all of the time that they give in preparing for these Bible studies and roundtables, for their teachings which strengthen us and who fully embody the meaning of feed my sheep. I am also so very grateful for all those who prepare the questions and lead these discussions, and I am grateful to all of those who attend and share their ideas and understanding, giving a great sense of unity, all of which enrich these classes. I am so grateful to God, who is ever present, directing every activity in this church, and I just wanted to thank all for the priceless gifts so freely and lovingly provided by the Plainfield Christian Science Church Independent. I'm very, very grateful to be here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Candy from Wisconsin. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I would like to say thank you to the lesson writers. Every week, I feel they have written a lesson just for me. They always address an idea I am working with or give aid to a problem that comes up that week. This is definitely God at work. What a wonderful church we have. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Pam from Virginia, go ahead.
Good evening. I would very much like to express my sincere gratitude to my practitioner for being there when I really needed her earlier this week. I live in Richmond, and the tropical storm in North Carolina moved up through Virginia with what would appear to be a severe storm with tornado warnings and flooding accompanying it. I was on my way home from my office and was continuously doing my prayerful work about the situation, but at one point I honestly felt I was being swallowed up in matter. The rain was so intense, along with lightning and tornado warnings going off on my cell phone to take cover immediately. At that point, I actually started yelling at Era that you are a liar and the father of it, that God is everywhere and he is the only power, not you. And then I thought of the story I'd heard with Mrs. Eddy and one of her early workers, in which Mrs. Eddy said she saw the face of God through the storm. I was now almost home, and as soon as I got into my house, I calmed our dog down, who appeared to be terrified. I went to my office and emailed my practitioner immediately that I needed help and explained why. Within a minute or two, she replied and told me what to hold on to and that she would help and to stay in touch with her. I gave her an updated report as I needed more support from my husband, who was caught in a major traffic jam due to a tornado sighting. She and I got busy helping him and also helping our community. It came to me to have my daughter and myself and our dog and 2 cats sit in our family room and listen to the roundtable discussion from this past Sunday, in which the topic was handling the weather. What an incredible, timely blessing. We all sat peacefully listening, including the pets, and all of a sudden I felt this wonderful sense of love enfolding me, along with the power of the truth. At that point, I felt so peaceful, I could not express enough gratitude. Also at that point, my husband walked in and laid down on the floor with the pets and listened to the end of the round table. The storm, with all of its baggage that it brought along with it, had subsided tremendously, and the sun came out. I called the practitioner to give her the update and was just completely overwhelmed with gratitude for her and for the love and care of my Father, Mother, God, and for this wonderful, wonderful beacon light in the storm, as that is what this church is, a beacon light for all the world. I told the practitioner that I realized from the round table that we must keep pressing on moment by moment in work for ourselves and also for mankind, because we are at war with matter and it is fighting for its survival. We as Christian scientists cannot and must not let this happen. Thank you for the wonderful readings and the testimonies. I am so grateful to be here tonight to testify to the power and protection of our God. Good evening.
Thank you. Elizabeth from Georgia, go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you for the music and the readings tonight. I, too, am very grateful for God's protection and power during Hurricane Florence. Over the past 3 years, including this year, our rental home on an island just south of Charleston, South Carolina, has been threatened by hurricanes. And each time, because of much prayer, as well as much practitioner support, these storms have done little to no damage where we are located, despite what's been forecast. And each time I feel like I'm growing in my understanding of God and trusting more in Him, and also putting on more armor, so to speak, in handling these storms. This hurricane was forecast to hit North Carolina and then stall and drift southwest to strike our area. In fact, if one listened to the news, the outlook was dire. A possible Category 4 or 5 hurricane, storm surge that could be 20 feet, and many inches of rain that would inundate the rivers around the area. The governor had issued a mandatory evacuation of the entire coast of South Carolina. I'm very grateful to be involved with Plainfield Christian Science Church Independent, which has been teaching us all how to handle the weather. A few citations I worked with were from Science and Health: moral and spiritual might belong to Spirit, who holds the wind in His fist. And this teaching accords with science and harmony. And then also from No and Yes, God's law reaches and destroys evil by virtue of the allness of God. God's law is in 3 words: I am all. And this perfect law is ever present to rebuke any claim of another law. In addition, it came to me to stand fast and not let up, and not have a halting or halfway position, as Miss Betty says in Science and Health, against this claim of evil, which was really malice trying to usurp the allness of God. When we stand with principle, principle stands with us. I'm also grateful for the watches at Plainfield, specifically to address the storm, the many helpful, strong metaphysical thoughts on the storm, and the readings last Wednesday about God being our vision. In those readings was the story about Elisha, who prayed to God that his servant would see the reality that God was mightier than the chariots and horses that the king of Syria had sent to surround them. And Elisha said, "Fear not, for they that be with us are more than they that be with them." And his servant finally saw that many more chariots surrounded he and Elisha. This is proof that one with God is a majority, as Mrs. Eddy says. This was proven for me yet again, as late last week, none of the forecasts for our area materialized. It seemed that each hour the forecast was revised. Winds, which were supposed to be 75 miles per hour, were reduced to 50, then 40, then 25. The 10-plus inches of rain became 6, then 3. We ended up getting a half an inch. The storm surge did not happen at all. To me, this is proof that you bring into your experience what is in your consciousness. And thank you all for your strong support during this time. and for my practitioner, who stood fast with me and has opened my eyes to a more correct understanding of Christian Science.
Thank you. Chardell from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you for those powerful readings on the good soil and the beautiful music. I wish to express my gratitude for what I am learning about watching the weather and how to apply this important work every single day. I will never forget the first time I read where Mrs. Eddy said, quote, "Handle the weather just as you do any belief of mortal mind. You are not a Christian Scientist until you do control the weather." End quote. Page 268, for Spiritual Footsteps by the Gilbert C. Carpenters. Yesterday morning, I was awakened at 4 o'clock in the morning to thunder and lightning. I immediately said loudly, "You have no power. There is only one power. Go away." In a few minutes, the storm ceased, and I did not hear any rumblings in the distance. Later that morning, I had to go out, and there was torrential rain with a flood alert on my phone and more thunderstorms predicted. People were honking at each other, and there was erratic driving. I knew I needed help and called a practitioner from this church, and very quickly the rain stopped and the sun came out. Mrs. Eddy said, if you don't always succeed, don't give up. There is much written about this very worthwhile and necessary work, and listening to the roundtable on September 16th from last week will encourage and bolster any weather watch. Thank you.
Thank you. Benjamin.
Thank you. I'm also happy for the reading tonight about the seed. I can identify with some of what was read tonight. And I feel so lucky to be here tonight. This evening as I was coming back from work, I just had the experience that I haven't stopped thanking God, and I will continue to thank Him for what He has done this evening. On my way from work, so I was driving my vehicle, and there was this little kid. He was on his bicycle, and it was during the school hour when school was coming. Kids were coming out from school, and he wasn't wearing school uniform, but I knew he was supposed to be in school, but for some reason he wasn't in school. And anyway, he was driving his bicycle at that time of the day, and he was driving on the wrong side of the road. And he drove right toward my vehicle as if he wasn't actually seeing my vehicle. And immediately he passed my vehicle right in front of my vehicle. Another vehicle on my right side hit him, and it happened so fast. And the vehicle stopped about 50 feet. Then I stopped my vehicle. I looked, I couldn't see the kid. Then I came out from my vehicle, and when I came out, he got up and took off. He left his bicycle there. And I'm sure the driver that hit him was also surprised that he was able to get up, and he completely disappeared. And I came out. The other driver came out. He looks like a very nice gentleman. He didn't look upset, except he was amazed what happened and how the kid also was able to get up and run and left his bicycle. And being a very nice man, he got up, and then we looked at each other, and I can understand why we were speechless for what God has done. And he took his bicycle and moved it from the street and put it on the sidewalk. He went back to his vehicle, and I went back to mine. even though his side mirror was completely gone. Nothing happened to my vehicle. Then I went back to my vehicle and I continued to drive. But before I drove, I looked around if I could find the kid, because I wanted to talk to him so that he can understand what God has done for him. But he was nowhere to be found. And I drove, but I started thanking God for what God has done. Even though he was driving so disobediently and wasn't obeying the law, because it's important to obey the law. The law was put there for a reason. And when somebody failed to obey the law, things like that happen. But he was a very young kid. I know God loved him. And for him being next to my car, I think that also what saved him, because I saw him first. I think me seeing him, and he was at that moment in my thought. I knew he was doing something wrong, but I saw him. The vehicle behind me did not see him, but for me to see him that time, I think that kind of protected him, because there's no other way he could have been saved from that incident. What happened to him was extraordinary. It was beyond belief. Only God could have done it. And I can see how much God loved him, because he was a very young kid. And I know he has so much good to do for his family, for himself, for the community where he lives. It's not the right time for anything like that to happen to any kid, and certainly not what I wanted to see. I couldn't stop thanking God all my way driving home. I was thanking God. I was imagining how God loved him and loved me and loved the other driver, and never allowed any one of us to get in trouble, especially him. It's just so amazing what happened tonight. It was beyond belief, except knowing that it was God who has done it, who has protected his child and all of us. I'm so grateful to God for what he has done for us, for everybody. And I know that God will speak to him, and from this moment he will be a good child of God. Thank you.
Thank you. Luba from Ohio, go ahead.
Good evening. I was introduced to Christian Science 20 years ago, but it is since coming to Plainfield that I have gained a much better understanding and living of Christian Science in my daily life. I'm grateful for the publications, the Bible studies, and the roundtable the roundtable discussions that provide so much. I'm especially grateful to my practitioner, who is always there for me. Her unyielding support is such a blessing. I'm grateful to have found this church and for what Mrs. Eddy has given us in science and health, and I thank God for all he has provided. Thank you for tonight's inspiring reading, and I'm happy to be here tonight.
Thank you. Linda from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you very much for the readings tonight and the wonderful testimonies. I, too, want to express my gratitude for our recent Bible study on Saturday, September 15th, titled Cast Out Demons, about Jesus' healing of a man possessed and who could not be controlled and did not live normally. It gave me a renewed appreciation for the many lessons I learned from my Plainfield practitioner during a particular time she supported me while I was working with children with behavioral challenges that made it difficult, sometimes impossible, for them to function normally, even with the simple everyday tasks. I had been in this job for over a decade before finding Plainfield and working with a practitioner here. I can say that the profound influence of this science of the Christ on my work environment has convinced me this is the only true solution. Prayer that is Bible-centered with a clear understanding of Mary Baker Eddy's teachings. Over the next couple of years, I was brought to my knees, and I am so grateful that this church was there to help me give it all to God. I had at the time great pride in my work, and for many years my human efforts sometimes seemed to pay off, although it wasn't always easy. I thought that I was good at this work and never really gave God the credit. At this time, I found myself trying to manage situations with these children where human effort was inadequate. But this was good because it made me turn to God for help and see His care for all the details. I worked in a very professional environment with behavior management experts who were caring individuals. The families had access to the best research, trained experts, medical treatment, and other resources. But nothing could match the effects of the Christ brought to the environment. This is not a criticism for what they were doing, because they were doing their best, but rather it is a statement that only Christ can reach and destroy these horrible lies that say that God's creation can be out of control, destructive, weak, or deficient. Now, seeing these lies as impersonal demons of thought that Christ can cast out takes the sense of incurability out of these diagnoses that bind these lies to man and try to tell us that God cannot reach them. A few of the things that I witnessed while I was working with this practitioner was most often peace restored, aggressions calmed. One child made tremendous progress in such a short time in all areas of his life, including calming storms that would break out. There was more normal behavior expressed in the classroom, new skills gained, and order brought to chaos that this type of environment seems to bring. And many others, I could go on. The prayerful work was never done specifically for anyone but me. It was the powerful, correct thinking about God's creation that quieted the aggressive pictures that arose and met needs in practical and sometimes unexpected ways, with various ages, backgrounds, diagnoses, or given causes. Truth was universal and cut through it all. By learning this science correctly and how to live it step by step in daily life, I have been given new views and trust in God. I am very grateful for the work of the practitioner, Christ Jesus, and Mary Baker Eddy, and this church. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeremy.
I am thank you for the readings tonight. I'm very grateful tonight for all that God has built here in Plainfield to do His work. Frequently, I take time to thank God for the amazing system He has here and the people He has brought together to do this work. Each week we have a lesson, the forum posts, the Wednesday readings and testimonies, the Bible study, the round table, the service, and more. So much inspired work is constantly coming together, and I am astounded how it is all clearly God-directed and always right for the moment. I'm so grateful to God, to this church, and to everyone that does their part faithfully. It gives me great joy to be part of this mission. Thank you. And now I have a testimony from Diana in Vienna and Berlin.
Hello, this is Diana from Berlin and Vienna. I'm in Vienna now, and I want to express so much gratitude to the church for all of this teaching about how to handle animal magnetism. I feel like I'm getting better and better at it every week, and the last roundtable discussions and Bible studies were just so rich in helping. One of the things that I'm doing right now, which is very simple, which I learned this weekend particularly, is that whenever anything comes up, I just am just God good, God good. And the other one is radiate, don't absorb. Radiate, don't absorb. And this is really helping me to stop allowing myself to get angry or to focus on this thing that is the error, and just know that God is good and radiate, don't absorb. And it's keeping me obeying the first commandment. And I'm just really grateful for that. The other thing that I'm really grateful for is I just read Peace Be Still to All Error by Mary Baker Eddy. It was on the carousel of the articles page, which I love that there's this new carousel. It was really helpful to pick that out. It's about weather, clearly, but not necessarily weather. And one of the things I just want to read from it, it's a very short article, and I really recommend it. What I want to read from it is just this: what a glorious inheritance is ours through the understanding of omnipotent love. We cannot want to have a more sweet assurance than this: peace be still to all error. It is just so clear and so reassuring, and it's just a wonderful short article to help us whenever we are faced with error in our lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Florence, go ahead.
Thank you so much for the beautiful readings. They are powerful. Thank you. And I'm so grateful tonight for how God has sustained this church with a group of people committed to this work. Many come and go, but I know that when times have been difficult, this is when I first started with this church, and those doubting questions came up as to whether to stay or go, the commitment of those who have weathered the storm and stayed the course gave much encouragement and hope to carry on. I'm so grateful that all the testimonies prove that people are really using this work, the truth that has been given through Mrs. Eddy, the proof, and now all the things that have been added to the website. These are all so uplifting. The discipline to stay committed has come mainly because of the emphasis placed here on putting God first, seeking Him first, like the Bible does tell us to do. Make God first, and all things shall be added unto you. And the many practical ways that I have learned to apply Christ's truth to my life. I am grateful for how the commitment to the simple things, like praying before my lesson, remembering to make God first, take a break, think about God, pray to Him during the day, and to remember always that He loves me. All these simple but very practical things have helped me even more to be committed to this way of thinking. This has changed my life, and I'm endlessly grateful to God for leading me this way, to Christ Jesus, Mrs. Eddy, for their examples of commitment and faithfulness to God, and for all others who gave most of their lives to this life of saving, the life that saves, and to bless all of mankind with God, what God has for us all. I'm very happy to be here, very grateful for the testimonies, and just cannot thank God enough for a way of life that truly, truly saves. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Mary.
Before I get too far, I just wanted to remind people, because of the membership meeting tomorrow night, we will only have one watch. Is that correct? Yes. The 10 o'clock watch. We will not have the 9 o'clock watch. Okay, we have things to read. First, a little letter from Wisconsin. Dear Plainfield Church members, please accept my overpayment as a donation. I am very new to Christian Science and love your website and the YouTube. I've been healed from years of chronic back pain and chiropractors through reading Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures. Geographically, I'm far removed from like-minded friends, and I'm very grateful for your site and your presence and your devotion. I finally have found the truth. Lovingly yours. And then another from Wisconsin. Dear Sir, thank you for your church. I was introduced to Christian Science in San Francisco. I was cured of alcoholism and have been sober 39 years. I'm not a member of the Mother Church or of any church, so I'm grateful to find your church is independent. Thank you. And then from Illinois, some excerpts from some things she wrote. Listening to this service Wednesday night brought tears of gratitude. Thank you. We are all one, and the we that we think we are is really truly only one, all. Such a tremendously powerful thought to dwell on. So many things I would like to share. So grateful for you and all the Plainfield group all around the world. I've lovingly embraced and taught the Plainfield group many times. I first found you online after I'd read something about Bicknell Young. Someone had commented that his writings are so beautifully expressed. I'd read some things by him quite a while ago, but was hoping to find something to listen to in the car, as my commute every day is an hour to an hour and a half each way. I listened to the readings and then became curious about Plainfield. The first thing I was led to was the music, How Great Thou Art. And I was just a complete and absolute puddle of tears. I'm so very grateful for that beautiful performance. I played it over and over, day after day, crying every time, driving to work and home again. I'm so grateful for all aspects of the Plainfield Christian Science Church. I have to say, one of the things I treasure the most and brings me to tears is every hymn, are those who are singing harmony. Such a tremendous sense of joy, freedom, and love shine through so brilliantly. The thought that this might be the church home that is honest, fearless, accepting, loving, and can help me to come to a clear understanding of Christian Science is practically overwhelming. It is hard to even describe. While I received wonderful, strong basis from my Sunday school teacher from many years ago, and I will add that Sunday school teacher was excommunicated by the BOD for teaching Sunday Bible study classes. So then she goes on, I felt tremendously confused and conflicted over the years through nearly every other connection with Christian Science. And you can see why. I reached a point of needing to make a nearly complete break with Christian Science, even going so far as to check out a group that meets for former Christian scientists, a support group type thing. I get it. It's easy to understand why such a group would come to be. But I want Christian Science. Bringing Bible studies in the light of Christian Science to the world is a priceless gift that your church gives. Please let the Plainfield Christian Science Independent Group know that their efforts are felt and treasured by me, and if by me, then doubtless by many, many others like me, who are quietly and very gratefully with you all as we thought through and review our past Christian Science experiences. Love to you all and many blessings. And then this was on our church website bulletin board from Virginia. Our insightful roundtable on handling the weather reminded me of a powerful demonstration regarding storms from a few years ago. My husband and his crew were protected during an ocean crossing in his sailboat. They were sailing from Bermuda back to the United States, and with the help of a Plainfield practitioner, were in total safety, but storms were all around them. During a white night watch, my husband looked up at the night sky and saw the stars, whereas the radar showed storms everywhere, and the radio was filled with emergency calls. It was as if they were in a protected bubble. He isn't a scientist, but was very impressed by this demonstration and listened with me yesterday during the round table and the weather discussion. Christian Science is the answer we need for storms and for every possible situation. Certainly wonderful and encouraging to hear these wonderful testimonies of the healing power of God. And so many of you getting this science, learning how to handle animal magnetism, learning what the real science is. And when you learn it, it works. And as was beautifully read tonight, when you are ready to really commit yourself to this work, it's nothing to be dabbled in. It requires the dedication, really the 24/7. And I'm so gratified in seeing so many of you taking this up, taking on the mantle, and doing this work properly. And in doing it, the results are unlimited because God's power is unlimited. I was thinking tonight how beautiful it was read. Fidelity finds its reward and its strength in exalted purpose. It's a beautiful thought. How do we stay committed? How do we be that good soil that doesn't turn back? It's in an exalted purpose. It's wanting something not just for yourself, but for all mankind. And in that exalted purpose, you find a renewed sense of hope and joy and an energy to continue on. When if you're just here for your own selfish reasons, you won't. It's those who tend to turn back. Those who are here to bless the world, how could you turn back? It would be impossible. In the preface of Miscellaneous Writings, Mrs. Eddy also writes, to preserve a long course of years, still and uniform, amid the uniform darkness of storm and cloud and tempest, requires strength from above, deep draughts from the fount of divine love. Dear Mrs. Eddy, there again she is telling us to stay the course, to remain steady. It requires that we go to that fount of love, to fill our hearts and minds and souls with that love of God, so that we can persevere. And what an example she has set before us. All the things that could have stopped her, taken her out, many discouragements and other things, she never did. She persevered to the end. And it's an example, a humbling example for all of us. I'm so grateful to be here with you all tonight, to hear the beautiful readings, the inspired testimonies. God bless this church.
Thank you.